Why female narcissists can destroy your peace without you realizing it. Have you ever been in a relationship where nothing seems obviously wrong, yet you constantly feel emotionally exhausted and unable to relax? You may look fine on the outside, while privately wondering why your confidence, happiness, and emotional safety seem to be disappearing. Sometimes, the person creating that chaos is not openly cruel, but uses subtle narcissistic behaviors that are difficult to recognize. A female narcissist can appear caring, charming, vulnerable, or affectionate, while quietly creating a relationship centered around her emotional needs. The disturbing part is that you may not realize what is happening until your peace has already been affected. At first, she may make you feel special by giving you intense attention, admiration, and emotional closeness that feels impossible to resist. She may make you believe that you have finally found someone who understands you on a deeper level than anyone before. But gradually, the relationship can shift from genuine connection into emotional control, where your feelings become less important than keeping her satisfied. One of the first signs is that you carefully choose your words because you fear how she might react. A simple disagreement can suddenly become an emotional crisis, leaving you apologizing even when your original concern was reasonable. Instead of discussing the actual problem, the conversation may become about how you supposedly hurt, disappointed, or disrespected her. Eventually, you may stop expressing yourself honestly because avoiding conflict feels easier than defending your intentions. Another subtle way she can destroy your peace is through emotional inconsistency. One moment she may be affectionate, supportive, and connected, while the next she becomes distant, cold, irritated, or unavailable. Because you never know which version of her you will encounter, your mind can become obsessed with understanding what changed. You start analyzing conversations, messages, facial expressions, and small behaviors, searching for the mistake that caused her mood to change. This creates something extremely exhausting, emotional hypervigilance, where you constantly monitor another person's emotional state. Instead of enjoying the relationship, you become focused on preventing another negative reaction and keeping everything emotionally stable. You may ask yourself whether she is angry, whether you said something wrong, or whether you need to make her happy again. Without realizing it, your attention moves away from your own needs and becomes centered around managing hers. Another powerful behavior can involve guilt and constantly positioning herself as the victim during conflicts. Whenever you establish a boundary, she may interpret it as rejection, selfishness, betrayal, or proof that you do not care. You may feel pressured to remove that boundary simply because watching her become upset feels unbearable. Over time, you can become conditioned to believe that protecting your peace automatically means hurting someone else. This is where the relationship can become psychologically confusing and emotionally exhausting. You may know something feels unhealthy, but struggle to explain what is happening because there may be no single dramatic event. Instead, there are hundreds of small interactions that gradually make you feel less confident, secure, and certain about your perspective. That confusion becomes stronger when she denies behaviors that you clearly remember experiencing. You might hear things like, "You're too sensitive," "You're imagining things," or "You always make everything about yourself." When these responses happen repeatedly, you may question whether your reactions are reasonable or whether you really are the problem. The danger is not simply being criticized, but gradually losing trust in your own emotional judgment. Once you stop trusting yourself, it becomes easier for another person to influence how you interpret the relationship. Female narcissistic behavior can also appear through comparison, competition, and subtle attempts to minimize your accomplishments. Instead of celebrating your achievements, she may redirect attention toward herself, or make your success seem less important. You may begin feeling that you have to achieve, provide, sacrifice, or constantly prove your value to maintain emotional approval. A relationship that should provide encouragement can start feeling like a competition where you are constantly earning acceptance. Another warning sign is the gradual isolation of your emotional world from people who genuinely care about you. You may stop talking to friends or family because you feel embarrassed by how complicated everything has become. Perhaps you worry that people will judge you, misunderstand her, or ask questions you are not ready to answer. The less you communicate with trusted people, the easier it becomes to normalize behaviors that seem unhealthy from the outside. And this is why narcissistic dynamics can be difficult to identify while you are emotionally inside them. The relationship does not necessarily become unhealthy overnight. Instead, your boundaries may disappear through small compromises. You tolerate something because you love her, then tolerate something else because you understand her struggles, till tolerance becomes normal. You may eventually believe that maintaining peace requires constantly sacrificing your own needs and feelings. But genuine peace is not the absence of arguments at any cost or constantly keeping another person happy. Real peace comes from feeling safe enough to communicate honestly, maintain boundaries, disagree respectfully, and remain yourself. A healthy relationship does not require you to manage another person's reactions just to prevent the next emotional storm. Love should allow you to breathe, express yourself, grow, and maintain your identity without feeling guilty for having needs. If you recognize these patterns, do not immediately label someone based on a few behaviors because narcissism is a psychological pattern. Instead, focus on what the relationship consistently does to your emotional well-being and whether your boundaries are respected. Pay attention to repeated patterns rather than isolated incidents, because patterns reveal more than one difficult conversation. Most importantly, remember that you can protect your peace without proving that someone else is a terrible person first. You do not need permission to take your feelings seriously, establish healthy boundaries, or step away from dynamics that drain you. Sometimes the biggest realization is understanding that your exhaustion is not something you have to keep explaining away. When a relationship repeatedly destroys your peace, the answer is not always becoming better at tolerating the chaos. Sometimes the answer is recognizing the chaos, trusting yourself again, and choosing a healthier way of living. Because your peace should not depend on keeping another person emotionally satisfied at the expense of your well-being. The moment you stop abandoning yourself just to maintain a relationship, you begin taking back something more valuable than the relationship itself. You begin taking back your confidence, emotional freedom, ability to trust yourself, and right to live peacefully. Because sometimes protecting your peace is not selfishness, it is recognizing that your emotional well-being matters too.